Coming up on today's show, I want to run through the updated NFL playoff picture after Week 17, along with some playoff scenarios for the Broncos. And then I got a silver lining coming out of their loss against the Bengals, so we'll look at that to wrap up today's episode. But first, here's how things stand in the AFC, with Monday Night Football being two NFC teams. Broncos sitting at the 7 seed, 9-7. If they win, I think we all know by now, they clinch a playoff spot. They still control their own destiny. So that is the good news. Also, they could technically lose and still get in if the Bengals lose at Pittsburgh on Saturday night and the Dolphins lose at the Jets on Sunday afternoon. They're playing at the same time as the Broncos, 2:25 p.m. Mountain Time. So that is Denver's path. Either win or Bengals and Dolphins lose, and the Broncos clinch a playoff spot with a 9-8 record. The Bengals' playoff path, if you're wondering, is they beat the Steelers, and Denver loses to the Chiefs' backups, and the Dolphins lose to the Jets. They need both those other teams to lose, and the Bengals take care of business against a Steelers team that's on the decline. The Dolphins' path, by the way, beat the Jets, and the Broncos lose. They are a little bit more simplistic. They win, Broncos lose, and Miami at 9-8 is going to Buffalo, and Tua's going to freeze his ass off and die against the Bills. So no one fares all that well against Buffalo, but I don't think the Dolphins are going to be much better up at north against the Bills for a second time. But this time, they will hopefully not have Skylar Thompson starting. But if you still believe in the Broncos, subscribe right now. Help us reach 31,000 subscribers. We are 55 subs away from 31,000 on the dot. So go ahead and join the largest growing Broncos YouTube community out there. Now, a few weeks ago, I did a video about some of the AFC playoff predictions, and here is what I've got going for the Broncos now as we go into the final week of the season. I got the Chiefs losing Week 18 to the Broncos, and Denver taking the 7 seed with a 10-7 record on a collision course to play the Buffalo Bills. You got an AFC North showdown. Steelers go to the Ravens, and I think the Chargers are going to win. The Steelers losing to the Bengals, dropping them to the 6th seed, and the Chargers facing off against the Texans. And in this scenario here, I'd probably pick the Bills to win, the Ravens to win, and the Chargers to win. So Buffalo takes down the Broncos, Ravens take down the Steelers, and the Chargers upset, but I wouldn't really call it much of an upset, the Texans on the road. And by the way, here's my NFC playoff prediction. I've got the Lions getting the 1 seed, beating the Vikings on Sunday Night Football. Eagles take care of business, although they can't go up or down. They're stuck at the 2 seed. The Rams have gotten hot recently. That's going to be a tough draw for the Packers at 12-5. And the Buccaneers win, and they are in Week 18 against the Saints and host the Minnesota Vikings, the runner-up in the NFC North. And the Commanders clinched a playoff spot on Sunday Night Football with their win over the Falcons. But I do love giving predictions on this show. Obviously, no one bats 1,000, but I really appreciate when I put a video out like 3 weeks ago going into the last 3 weeks of the season after that Colts win before the Chargers Thursday night game, and Jason is just not happy with me saying the Broncos, in my estimation, are going to go 1-2 in the last 3 weeks, and so far, that is best case scenario for Denver because they have lost to the Chargers and the Bengals, which no one likes to hear this, but that's kind of what I forecasted happening, and Jason was just really pissed off at me. So, Jason, sorry, not sorry, but yeah, that's really what just went down here. Coach also not happy. Dude, this guy has no faith in the Broncos, expects us to lose 2 out of the next 3. This is a tough business when you are in the business of saying the unpopular opinion, but if I just pick Denver to win every single time, does it really carry a lot of validity as the season goes along? I mean, honestly here, would you rather me give you my honest opinion when it comes to each matchup or just pick the Broncos to win because otherwise I'm the Grinch? I mean, if you remember, before the season started, go back months ago, and my record prediction for them was 9-8. So, no, I haven't been fading them every single step of the way and dooming them every single chance I get. Fortunately, I am a loss away from being correct, and I hope I'm not correct. Hopefully, I'm a game off, but no, I have not been some major Grinch for the Broncos from the entire start of the year. I had them going 9-8, and right now they are a win away from going 10-7. So, Jason, Coach, lower your muskets. So sorry that I was correct. They're going to go 1-2 best case in the last 3 games of the season. Do I have some positive news? Yes, I have some positive takeaways coming out of Week 17's loss against the Bengals, which I'm excited to share with you guys here. But first, a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Here's an example of my selections over on Prize Picks, taking the less on Jared Goff against the Niners, but the more on Jahmyr Gibbs and George Kittle as well. So if you like my selections, feel free to download the app today and then use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. If you missed that, don't worry. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. So the silver lining I want to talk about is Marvin Mims might have arrived. The second-round pick out of Oklahoma didn't have a really large role on this offense early on in the season. He was getting out-snapped and out-targeted by like Devon Vele, Troy Franklin, a couple of rookies. But the last couple of weeks, and especially on Saturday, he came to play. Targeted 8 times, caught all targets, 103 yards, and 2 clutch touchdowns in the fourth quarter, including a perfect, beautiful pass from Bo Nix. And then on 4th down, 25 yards out, under 15 seconds to go, Marvin Mims with 2 defenders around him. He's not Calvin Johnson. He's not 6'4", but he outworks and outclimbs those 2 defenders and comes up with the game-tying touchdown catch. In fact, look at Marvin Mims' stats the last 4 games on the right versus the first 28 games of his career, and in some ways, he's already outdone what he did in the first 28 games. 3 touchdowns versus 2 over the last 4 games, including 2 on Saturday, 290 yards, 2 games with over 100 yards. Marvin Mims is having a breakout surge at the moment, and we desperately need to see this. Because if you recall, back on December 1st, I forecasted that Denver needs some explosiveness from one of their explosive players like Marvin Mims, and we are seeing it. So let's roll the tape on what I said back on December 1st. But if you are going to knock off playoff teams one week after another, you're going to need a little bit more explosiveness and firepower, right? And that's where Marvin Mims has to come through, right? If Denver's going to go on the road and, let's say, knock off the Ravens or the Steelers, they're going to have to do it with a couple of big contributors on special teams to set up the offense with good field position. And then once they're on offense, they're going to need Marvin Mims to use his speed to get into the open field and turn a 10-yard play into a 15, 20, 25-yard play. It is such a big relief as we come back to present day now to see Marvin Mims really start to become that explosive playmaker that Denver's offense really needs, because Courtland Sutton has been consistent all year long. You can go to him on 1st, 2nd, or 3rd down. Doesn't matter the situation. Doesn't matter where you are on the field. But if you need a guy that can just stretch the field for you that you really haven't been able to get so far out of any other receiver, Marvin Mims has to be that guy. That's why they took him in round 2. Not because he was a good special teamer. No, because he had that big explosive play in him, and it's starting to really come out here at the end of his 2nd season. But unfortunately, there is something that we talked about on this channel even before December 1st that has not been corrected. And at the time, there were people telling me, I'm overreacting. Why are you being a Debbie Downer after a win against the Raiders? And then on Saturday, my biggest fear came true. So let's roll the tape from what I said back on November 24th after Denver's win in Las Vegas. Scenario: the Broncos have a 7-point lead, and they need to run the ball to kill the clock and get a 1st down or 2 in the playoffs. And they can't run the ball because the other team knows they can't run the ball, so they completely sell out for the run. And Denver, when they play an actually competent team, punts it over to them, up by 7, with 2.5 minutes to go and some timeouts remaining, and that playoff team marches down the field and puts up a touchdown. That is something as we start to get really nitpicky, but these are important things to look at. We're talking about what is the makeup and the character of a playoff winning team that Denver is lacking in. We'll bring it back to present day now, and my fear from pre-Thanksgiving is still glaringly holding this team back. I mean, it wasn't quite exactly how I drew it up a few months ago, or a month and change ago, but the point remains that on Saturday, Denver was a first down away from clinching a playoff spot. I mean, Ty and the Broncos are in the playoffs. Remember after Cade York missed that 33-yard field goal to put the Bengals up 27-24 in overtime, and then Denver got the ball with 2:43, not needing to score. Tie is just as good as a win. It may not sound as good, but it clinches a playoff berth, so it might have been just as good. 1st and 10, Broncos run it, gain of 3. And at that moment, Sean Payton goes, and rightfully so, I can't trust my ground game to pick up 10 yards on 3 consecutive runs. I've got to go through the air. And the second play was a quick throw out to the right side, caught by Marvin Mims, loss of 1 or 2. And now it's 3rd and 9, and you have to pass. Had the Broncos picked up a first down, they would have been in victory formation after the 2-minute warning. Bengals would have called their first timeout, as they did after the first run. So Bengals have 1 timeout. It's 2nd and 7. Let's say they can trust themselves to run it for 7 yards. They run it one more time. It's 3rd and 3. Bengals call a timeout. And then on 3rd and 3, Denver picks up the first down on the ground. And we go to the 2-minute warning with 1st and 10 coming out of it. And Denver is kneeling the football because they clinch a playoff spot with a tie. This ground game is unfortunately going to be a backbreaker for this team. It cost them a win. There's a lot of things that cost them a win on Saturday against Cincinnati. But right there and then, the ball was in your court. You could end the game on your terms, and you can't trust your offensive line and more importantly, your running backs to get 10 yards on 3 straight runs. To me, that is the biggest priority to fix this upcoming offseason. If you can find a way to get Ashton Genty, if he falls far enough down to you, or you make a move to get up to him, I'm all for it. There's a lot of other good running backs as well, but you have to fix the run game. And it's not even about repairing the offensive line. It's simply fixing the running back room. There just has to be a personnel change. It's the first time Javonte Williams did not get a single carry. He was on the field a couple of times and targeted a couple of times, but nope, did not get a single handoff on Saturday. And that's the starting running back of this team going into the season. So, with that being said, who you got for this Sunday? Game kicks off 2:25 p.m. local time. Broncos hosting Carson Wentz and the Chiefs, with Kansas City expected to bench a lot of their starters. My guess is there'll be no Mahomes, there'll be no Chris Jones, no Travis Kelce. Probably 3 starting offensive linemen, like the veteran guys, the older guys, will get the day off, but I don't think they're going to sit all 5 starting offensive linemen. Maybe like Trent McDuffie, a couple of defenders, but of the 22 traditional starters, I'm gonna guess about half of them are going to play. They may not play the entire game, but they're going to be out there to start. And I don't think we should overlook the Carson Wentz-led Chiefs. I mean, the moment has been too big for Denver the last 2 games. They haven't lost these last 2 games solely because the other team was just better than them. Chargers weren't better than them in the first half. Denver had an 8-point lead. They had an 11-point lead halfway through the third quarter. Bengals weren't better than them when it was tied going into overtime and the Broncos had the football and couldn't pick up a first down to win the game. Denver has shot themselves in the foot more than the other team has beat them. It's worked both ways, but if they continue shooting themselves in the foot, it doesn't matter if Carson Wentz is playing quarterback. It's not going to be a gimme. No one should look at this as, we're in, baby. It's done. Chiefs aren't playing their starters. Pack it up. It's mental right now for Denver. That's what scares me. That terrifies me. If they were losing because of 58-yard field goals and Hail Marys, all right. Some unlucky breaks, but they are playing good football. They're playing all right football, but they are costing themselves wins. Before we get out of here, I do want to show some love to the Blue and Orange Club. Appreciate you all for supporting the channel. CPJ and Bulwark TYR. I mean, just a couple of MVP level performances the last few weeks out of you two. So really appreciate everyone who tunes into our watch parties. We will have another watch party this Sunday for the Week 18 showdown. So make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss out.